Hi, I'm Harold Bell, and this is the Legends of Inside Sports and the Way We Were. I'm sitting here with my co-host, Mr. Christopher Johnson, native Washingtonian, but grew up in Maryland, attended Gwynn Park High School, and he graduated from Gwynn Park High School and attended Delaware State, and now has his own rock group, the Cortland Experience.
Yes,
And
sir.
that's right, okay. And they got a big gig coming up this week that we'll talk about later. But anyway, this is the Legends of Inside Sports and the Way We Were. Today we're going to take a look. As you know, Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday is coming up on Monday. And guess what? 2 days later, guess who? Muhammad Ali's birthday on the 17th. Well, let's take a look at those two important men in our lives. I want to start out in talking with Chris about what does he know as a young man about the role that Martin Luther King played in our lives as a black leader.
Yeah, well, at first, growing up, I only pretty much knew what they told you in schools. But as I've become more politically aware and politically active, you've seen the important role that King had in the community as a leader in thought, as a person who would take on the establishment, who would really just be trailblazers for the community, and did it for the culture, and did it for the people, and who was just extremely intelligent and wise.
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the things that, Chris, our history is being suppressed, so you don't get it out of the schools
Yeah,
today. So
exactly.
no
Yeah.
doubt about it. You don't get it out of the school. You only get it from these folks pretending to be our leaders. Really, the civil rights movement really got its modern day start with Rosa Parks. As we well know, she refused in Alabama when she refused to take a seat in the back of the bus. And of course, from that boycott emerged the leadership of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And of course, from there, we went to Greensboro, North Carolina, where we had 4 freshmen, young men that were attending North Carolina A&T College, which was 30 miles down the road from Winston-Salem, where I was in school in 1960. Well, these 4 young men decided enough was enough. And they decided that they were going to go downtown and sit in at the Woolworth department store at the lunch counter. And that's exactly what they did, and they refused to leave. And that defiance really inspired the civil rights movement on and on. I happened to be at Winston-Salem University at that time as a freshman, and as the movement moved up to Winston-Salem, there I was, a freshman on the football team, and the first thing Coach Gaines, our legendary coach, did was call in all the athletes, and he told us, "I don't want to see, I don't want to see any of you guys. I don't want you to get caught downtown,
Yeah.
doing this confusion that's going on. And I catch up any of you downtown, I'm sending you by bus back to the ghetto."
Oh,
So
wow.
because threatened us. So guess what? 4 of us went downtown anyway, and one of the guys was my teammate Al Mayo from Washington D.C. Spingarn High School. Went to Spingarn together. Another guy was from Chicago, Bonnie Hood, a jump shooting guard, a freshman, and he could shoot that ball too, boy. And then I had a guy by the name of Lutheran Wiley, a damn fool. So it was 4 damn fools that decided to go downtown and participate in the boycott. And man, we just tried to stay out of the way of the eye of the camera, because we know if we got caught on camera, we were going back home. But anyway, that was my first encounter with the civil rights movement. And to think that I was a part of that history, a small part, but I was a part of the history, and just happened to be in Winston-Salem during the 1960 school year, and in the right place at the right time. And of course, the march on Washington with Dr. Martin Luther King. I can't forget that because I remember my boys from New York who were at Winston-Salem with me called and said, "Hey, man, we're gonna be in town, man, to participate in the march." He said, "Where can we meet?" I said, "Well, let's meet at Ben's Chili Bowl."
What better place to meet?
That's right.
In the
That's
city.
right. So guess what? We met at Ben's Chili Bowl, and we walked from Ben's Chili Bowl down to the march, and that was a fantastic, man. I didn't realize exactly what I was participating in, how
At the
big it
time.
was going to be in our history. And Jack DeFerris, Bonnie came in from Chicago. I remember Bonnie coming in from Chicago. It was about 6 of us, and we walked on a beautiful day down to the mall, and man, something that you can never forget. What have your parents told you about that march?
I just heard it, like I said, just amazing moment in history of unity and of power and like Martin Luther King just he really showed the power of nonviolent protest, of
Mm-hmm.
nonviolent, the sit-ins and things like that. Those strategies, and that if you persevere, they do work. Like some
Right.
people, I hear a lot of that nowadays, that protesting and things like that don't work. They do if you're strategic, if you're smart, and if you're
Mm-hmm.
united, and if you're persistent. Those things work. And
Yeah.
I think that's something that King can really enlighten for my generation.
Yeah, he was such a major influence, and it's just so sad that he really wasn't appreciated by his own people. A lot of backstabbing that we still do today. A lot of folks talk behind his back, and of course, when you die, everybody say how great you
Oh
were.
yeah,
You understand?
they're your best
But
friend.
yeah, your best friends, and I think, man, of that era that I just happened to be a part of. That when I left Winston Salem, I tried my hand trying to get a trial for the NFL teams and played minor league football up in West Virginia in 1965, and got cut. Came home, and my first job, I was looking for a job, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm standing down in front of the Howard Theater, the legendary Howard Theater, one evening, and who comes up but Petey Green? Petey and I had met at the Burning Tree Golf Course where I first started to caddy when I was in high school, and we became good friends. And while I was in college, Petey was in jail.
Oh,
And by the time I guess we got back to DC about the same time, and I told Petey I was looking for a job, so he said, "Man, come on, meet me down at the United Planning Organization on Monday morning, which was at 11th and U Street." Yeah, I say, I got somebody maybe will get us a job. And Petey was tight with the director, James Banks. And I went down there and they hired me. But they hired 3 of us as neighborhood workers. And they hired Petey, guy by the name of H. Rap Brown, and Harold Bell. So that was some history right there in
yeah,
itself.
part
And
of history.
right, great history, man. So I started to work with young people then. That's really, I got my base for working with young people in 1965, thanks to the United Planning Organization. Uh, and 2 years later, the United Planning Organization gave a grant to the DC Recreation Department for roving leaders. But the stipulation that they had to take Harold Bell along with the, with the grant. So I got lucky and got into one of the elite programs in the DC Recreation Department as a roving leader. I was like a troubleshooter working with youth gangs all over the area, really. And 1968, I was in the right place at the wrong time, or wrong place at the right time, when our Prince of Peace, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, was shot and killed in Memphis, Tennessee. And I remember exactly where I was at that time. I was standing on the corner of 9th and U Street with Willie Wood, who played for the Green Bay Packers. And Willie would come home during the off season because the NFL ball players weren't making this awesome money these guys are today. They had to come home and get a second job. So Willie would come home and work and get a teacher's job, or he would work with the roving leader program for the DC Department of Recreation. And that year he was working with the DC Department of Recreation and was my co-worker. And we had just had lunch at a little restaurant called Maurice where the in crowd hung out. And after lunch, we had a sandwich. We went out and stood on the corner because it was such a beautiful day. We just standing out there. and people blowing their horn as they come back because everybody knew Willie, play the Green Bay Packers, and waving. And so one guy comes by and yells, "Hey Harold, they just shot and killed Dr. King in Memphis, Tennessee." Willie looked at me and I looked at him. We didn't know it was just some damn fool acting crazy. And sure enough, people started coming out of the restaurant telling us, yeah, they had just seen it on the news that Dr. King had been shot and killed. And Willie said, man, we had trouble. And sure enough, man, within the hour, man, people were rioting on the U Street corridor. And it was something that, like I say, you never forget because Willie and we ended up calling up to the recreation department to our director, Stan Anderson, asked him, what should we do? We didn't know what to do. We've never been involved in anything like that. And he said, Harold, you and Willie need to stay out there because both of you are high profile and you may be able to save some kids' life. And so we had to stay out there. So that is the kind of memories that I remember and remember Dr. King, how he gave his life. He sacrificed his life, man. And I just read something from CNN about a week ago. Correspondent, somebody wrote a blog and said, what might ML King say to Donald Trump? My response was, what might ML King say to Black America and especially to the black athlete? Because we fumbled the ball. We dropped the ball.
In terms of social movements and in terms of empowering the community and things like that, they have a lot of, not all of them, but most have dropped the ball on that, really. They don't really step up as community leaders a lot of time. Like I said, not all the time. There are players that do that, but not the majority.
Well, when you think about professional athletes involved in the community, I started all that right here in Washington, D.C. in 1968. Actually, 1965, Dave Bing. I remember as 1967. Yeah, 1967, there was a shooting at Spingarn, and I had just joined the Rolling Leader program. So Stan Anderson called me and said, Harold, you need to go out to Spingarn since that's where you went to school, people out there, and find out what's happening. They had a shooting after a basketball game, McKinley Tech. Somebody from McKinley Tech allegedly shot a student from Spingarn after the game. And so they sent me out there, but I went out there. These young kids, man, they don't know me. They don't know me. So I'm out there trying to talk to the loudmouths and everything. They're not even listening to me. So I happened to go walk across the street to a place called Sporty's, a restaurant where we hung out when I was in school. Went over there, have a hot dog just to get my thoughts together. And when I finally got my hot dog, I went outside and I sat on the steps in front of the bus stop. And I heard somebody walking by talking about the NBA All-Star game was being played in Baltimore. And then my light bulb went off in my head. I said, oh my God, that's what Dave Bing is. He was a rookie. He was having an outstanding year. So the next morning, I rode over to Baltimore to catch up with Dave. And I didn't know what I was doing, really. I got over there and I said, well, I hope God is on my side. And God was on my side, but he was a security guard. So when I got to the arena, I asked him, I said, where would the players' interest be? So he told me to walk down to the corner and make a right turn, and that's where the players coming in from the All-Star would be entering. And I sat out there about a half hour, and who comes up but Dave Bing and Bob Lanier. And Dave sees me and said, Harold, what are you doing over here? I said, man, I need to talk to you. So he introduced me to Bob, and Bob and I shook hands, and he went on inside and let me and Dave talk. So I told him, man, look, we just had a shooting at Spingarn, and I would greatly appreciate it if you, on Monday, you would come to the school after the game and talk to the students. He said, man, done deal. Done deal. So he came to Spingarn about 10 o'clock that morning, and I had arranged with the principal to set up a full student assembly. And Dave Bing walked in, and they gave him a standing ovation. Well, you say, why are they giving him a standing ovation? These people probably don't know what happened. They just seen him on national television in the NBA All-Star game.
Use your influence.
That's right. And he walked up on the stage, and his words of wisdom, man, subtle things, man, and peace came back to the community. So when you start talking about professional athletes getting involved in the community, Dave Bing was the first one to get involved. And then Willie Wood during the rise, because he was already working with the Roving Leader Department, working with young people. So those were the first two people that joined my team, Kids in Trouble, because my wife and I found Kids in Trouble in 1968, and had our first Christmas toy party. And then the Redskins came in. Then radio, television personalities came in. I had guys coming in, Earl Monroe and Freddie Scott, who played wide receiver for the Detroit Lions. They come in for my celebrity tennis tournament. So you're seeing all this stuff now. They don't want to tell you. They don't want you to know that it's all started by Harold Bell and Hattie Bell with Kids in Trouble, man. So that is our kind of history that is being oppressed. And if we don't tell it, you guys don't tell it,
it'll
folks,
get lost.
it'll get lost. So that's why, when I think I mentioned my wife, her father was the president of the NAACP in Orangeburg, South Carolina in the 50s. And he was the president. He marched with Dr. King. So my wife participated, her brother, her siblings, in marches and demonstrations, got locked up, was jailed. Her father had to put up his house, to get them out. So the real civil rights movement, I know because I participated and my wife was a part of that. So yeah, we still got a long ways to go. And the president administration and the politics that's going on is not helping me, Chris.
Oh, it's not helping at all. I mean, the reported comments that everyone's corroborated how he feels about African countries and El Salvador and Haiti and immigrants coming from those places. It's right on the eve of Martin Luther King Day is just despicable. I mean, really. I mean, if those quotes are accurate, which they seem to be, he seems to be the only person in the world denying it, the president. And yeah, it's just really unfortunate that guy's in the White House and sowing so much division.
Yeah.
Trying to undo the work of people like Dr. King and the people that use civil disobedience and trying to bridge the gap between people. That we have someone in the White House that is trying to profit off of dividing people and just the racially charged message behind what he was saying. People are so outraged over the language and the words that he used, and they're not looking at the policy message. He said, "Why don't we have more immigrants from places like Norway?" Like, that shows you the frame of thinking. Like, it's not because these people come from terrible countries, because they're brown. Like, let's keep it real. Like, you want more white-looking immigrants coming in, and like, it's one thing for someone's old racist grandpa to say that, but this guy is in charge of forming policy for our country. So I would be less concerned about his naughty language and outrage over that, and be way more concerned over this guy's forming actual racist policies.
Well, one thing too, Chris, we must understand as a people that we can't put all the blame on Donald Trump.
Oh no,
we have had problems in our community for years. What has really happened is Donald Trump has opened up that closet door for all these racists to come out. They've been there.
Yeah,
you understand that?
He just capitalized.
That's right. He has given them an opportunity to come forward. That's right. Has given them a voice. And I tell a lot of white folks, man. One of my favorite sayings is that every black face you see is not your brother, and every white face is not your enemy. Because I understand. I learned from trial and error, man, that this is the truth. Just by caddying out at Burning Tree Golf Course and all whole white environment, this is where all the big time politicians play. This is where I met Richard Nixon and caddied for him, And I think about people like Red Auerbach, who's always been there for me, Jaime Perlo, Angelo Dundee, and I think about the black folks who I supported and helped, who have never reached back and done anything. So that's why I can't put all the blame on white folks, man.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's people. It's just the person. It's not the skin color.
That's right. And I tell white folks, see, people are scared to talk about racism. You know why they're scared? Because they got those racist feelings inside. That's why they don't want to talk about it.
And when things don't get talked about, then things like Trump happen.
Amen. That's right.
Where people wonder, where did all these racists come from?
That's right.
They've been here. You just haven't been listening. You haven't been having the conversation.
Yeah. Well, Chris, let's move on to sports for these last few minutes. Let's take a look at the NBA. Of course, the NBA is going to be doing Martin Luther King all over the place tomorrow. With all kinds of programs, and I'm just skeptical. I'm just skeptical about some of these programs and the people that are organizing and putting them on, because those are some of the people that are oppressing our history. And I tell white folks, man, when I'm talking about racism, is that You can't tell me anything. Yeah, I know how you feel. You don't know how I feel because you haven't walked in my shoes. And I don't know how you feel as a white person
Yeah,
because I
you've
never
never been
walked in
white.
your
Yeah,
shoes, you know? And when you can't sit down and have a decent conversation about it with that person in front of you, something is wrong
yeah. I
somewhere.
think that's a huge problem in the country right now. Like I have some friends on the right wing and on that other side and
Mhm.
that voted for Trump and things like that. But we can have a civil conversation about the issues, about an intelligent, genuine exchange of ideas, and I think that's really lost nowadays. People are just playing for their team. They're looking to score points in the argument and not actually listen to the other person. It's just
Mhm.
not about winning an argument. It's about coming to a common ground and coming to understanding. And I think that's really been lost in our political debate nowadays.
Mhm. Chris, you had an opportunity to attend your first Washington Wizards game the other night, and a fantastic performance put on by, of course, Bradley Beal and John Wall, who are definitely superstars
Yeah.
in this game called NBA. Tell me what did you get out of that?
Yeah, it was an excellent experience. So I thank you and the Wizards and everyone for giving me access to my first media experience in the game following. But it was really basketball wise confirmed a lot of the stuff we've been talking about for weeks that the Wizards are dangerous. They can beat anyone, but there are times where they look disinterested on defense. They give up a lot of easy interior buckets. There are a lot of focus lapses and things like that, little mental mistakes. But in terms of the team on paper, like they have the talent to beat anyone. Like they lulled to sleep. They let Orlando hang around, but then at the end of that game, Wall and Beal they turned it on just like a switch,
Mm-hmm.
dropped 30 apiece, and they put those guys away, and they can do that night
Yeah.
in and night out if they just stay focused. It's pretty much what we've been saying, and they got great performances off their bench from Jan Mamimi,
Mm-hmm.
giving him $64 million. He's finally earning some of that money. Finally, I think it was a career high for him, or maybe at
Yes,
least
it
a season.
was.
Yeah,
Yes, it
15
was a
points.
good. Yeah.
There's not a lot of points, but he was strong on the boards. He was strong in the interior, setting screens.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the storyline with Gortat before the game playing the Magic, talked about how he wanted to end his career with the Magic. So there's a lot of confusion. Does he want to be traded? Does it, things
Wow.
like that. But
Yeah.
that's just where he started his career, and he wants to go
Mm-hmm.
full circle. So he clarified after the game in the post game that he still wants to stay here and play this this run out with the Wizards,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe his last year or so, maybe go back to the Magic after his contract expires. So.
As you know, I'm always saying that uh, the success of any professional team, I don't care what it is, depends on if they can stay healthy. And that's the key. And I've also said that if they can get a double double from Gotar
Yeah,
in
that's
these
your key.
games, that's my key.
Every game.
Every game,
That's the key.
yeah, if you can get double double, and they got to get the killer instinct. They got to understand that when they get a team down by 20, 25 points, man,
Finish them.
you got to finish them.
Yep.
You can't let them loll around, and that's what happened. Look like what happened in the Nets game.
Yeah, same
Nets
thing.
Nets is the team that they should have crushed, and the Nets end up taking them to overtime after they got a 20-point lead.
That's been the symptom of their entire season. They've even said it themselves, like the
Mm-hmm.
players themselves. They played down to worse competition. Like
Mm-hmm.
the Orlando Magic were a 12-win team going into that game. Brooklyn similarly. Those are some really bad teams that you have way more talent than you should be blowing out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, let's keep it real. Like, there should be 10, 15-point wins, and they shouldn't be going down to the wire with the level of talent that the Wizards have. So, but they pull them out, and they're doing a lot better. Taking care of the games that they're supposed to win.
All right. One part of this NBA thing is a joke to me, and that's the NBA All Star Game. There's no way that Dwayne Wade should have be in front of both Bill and John Wall.
Yeah.
It's a popularity
Yeah,
contest,
it
but
is.
it kind of. I've always thought that the players should vote for the NBA All Star Game because they know who's doing what.
Yeah.
And I think it comes out more fairly that you can't vote for nobody on your team. Vote for somebody on another team. I think that's the only way you're gonna have something fair and equally done as far as all-star teams are chosen. I think this is a joke.
Yeah, I agree. The players and the coaches should have more pull. I think it's still just the starting five for both
Mm-hmm.
sides that the fans vote for.
Right.
So I
Mm-hmm.
think that's fair. It's a game for the fans. It's for the
Yeah.
fans. So I'm fine with the fans choosing the top five. But after that, yeah, I don't. I want to legit. I don't like to see great players snubbed.
Yeah.
Damian Lillard
Yeah.
has been snubbed the last few years out
Mhm.
west. Bradley Beal last year, you could have made a case for. So.
Mhm.
Yeah, it is a half popularity contest, and I think the game has gotten worse over the years
Yeah,
in terms of no defense being played
yeah.
during it. But
It's gotten worse. It's no doubt about that.
it's still fun. It's still better than the Pro Bowl.
Yeah. I stopped looking at the Pro Bowl. I don't even look at the Pro Bowl anymore. Well, speaking of football, we got man, we had a terrific game yesterday, and
Yes.
now, as far as I know, the Steelers are down to the
Oh
Jaguars.
yeah, we got some big time football going on right now. Steelers. Last time we checked, they were trailing by one touchdown. So they were driving. This game looked like it's going to come down to the wire. But I have a friend of mine who's been saying this whole year, Jacksonville. You need to watch out for that Jacksonville defense. They could be
Hmm.
one. They could be one of the all time great defenses, like 2000 Ravens level, 85 Bears. And at
Hmm.
first I was like, I don't know, but the more I watch this team, like that defense is just amazing. They're
Yeah.
spectacular. They really could take Blake Bortles to a Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Like,
and that would be
yeah, like
something
that would
else right
be
there. Chris, and Phil, why are we talking about Jacksonville and the Steelers game on? We came in to sit down to do the show. The Jaguars were up like 28-7. Now it was
28,
20.
21 last time.
Yeah, 28-21. Favor the Jaguars. You know who's sitting in an easy chair, just laying back now? None other than my man James Harrison. James Harrison got out of Pittsburgh and said, "Look, I'm gone, man," and went and signed up with the New England Patriots. Now the Patriots are just sitting back, waiting for the winner of this game, and they don't care who it is. They don't care who it
They're
is.
ready
But
to go, but there's the Patriots are still getting some of the most ridiculous home calls, referee calls. Like at first, it's just like maybe it's just a little bit, but now it's starting to become a little blatant to me. Like this is starting to become some WWE, level shenanigans with these referees because it seems like every call the Patriots get the benefit of the doubt.
yeah,
Like every call, even if they replay and overturn it, they'll be like, "It
yeah,
was a touchdown." We'll look at it later. For every other team, they'll be like, "No touchdown." And
yeah.
then they'll look at it and like it just seems a little fishy. And when I see the referees helping up Tom Brady and giving him high fives, like that would not inspire confidence if I was an opponent that the games are being called fairly.
Yeah, I tell you, man, it really is. And this instant replay, man, it's terrible. They
terrible.
they go all the way to New York. New York gets it
And still get
before
it wrong.
anybody else, and they help make the decision. And then sometimes they spend
Still get it
2, 3, 4, sometimes 5 minutes,
full minutes slowing the game down.
slowing the game down, man. And then they come back a lot of times with some ridiculous. And this the ground can't.
Oh, the catch rule. The catch
Yeah, the
rule.
catch
You
rule.
need about 3 lawyers to explain this catch rule to you because it's so ridiculous now. And I've gone back and looked at like that Pittsburgh game earlier when they played New England. That was a catch.
Yeah.
Like by every definition of the rule. So yeah, the fact that the rule is so complicated that no one seems to be able to come to a consensus on what a catch is anymore.
Yeah.
Seems that the rule needs to be adjusted.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, it's going to be exciting. It looks like New England is headed back unless the Jaguars or the Steelers can upset them. It looked like Tom Belichick. They're talking about all the problems that they had among each other. I'm talking about Belichick, Brady, and Robert Kraft. But Belichick, man, is a genius. I mean, come on. I don't care whether you like him or not.
No,
He's a genius, and he's sitting in the catbird seat because, man, I think he's in a position that he can go up to the New York Giants.
Yeah, that's the rumor right now.
Yeah, he could go up to the New York Giants.
With the coordinator from the Patriots, the defensive coordinator, looking like he's going to go to the Lions after the season and be their head coach, which leaves that Giants vacancy open if Belichick ends up leaving.
Yeah, and the thing about that too, man, if Belichick decides to go to the Giants and Robert Kraft made the decision to hold on to Tom Brady and that he can play till he's 44, I think they're gonna be in some big trouble, man.
That could be the end of their dynasty.
That's right. That decision really might backfire on Kraft and Tom Brady. I just want to say too, man. There's been another exciting show with my man Chris Johnson, and I just want you to remind you that we got 2 important birthdays coming up, and not only Martin Luther King on the 15th, but the greatest Muhammad Ali on the 17th. We could talk on and on about him and the impression that he left on me and millions of people. Even though Martin Luther King's birthday is going to be celebrated on the 15th in America, Muhammad Ali's birthday, which is the 17th, will be celebrated around the world. So I just want you to remember that this has been the Legends of Inside Sports. I'm Harold Bell, and I want you to remember that every black face you see is not your brother, and every white face is not your enemy. And until next time, you can color me a gone. And this is my man, Chris Johnson.
So
All right.